This week on our cover, Restoring America editor Jeremiah Poff writes about the radicalization of America's youth. So we see throughout the country the No Kings protests, the various protests that happen on college campuses, and while there are definitely boomer holdovers from the 1960s that like to participate in such events, there's always a population of younger people who are especially eager to get involved in radical political activities and who have the free time to show up for protests and demonstrations. But we're starting to see evidence that some of these sentiments are much more widely shared than among just people who are members of student activist groups who may soon quickly grow out of these ideologies once they graduate from college and have to get a real job. We're seeing evidence from a Pew Research poll that was conducted, I believe, in 2022, where you had nearly as many people expressing confidence in socialism, in fact, actually a little bit more, 44% in the 18 to 30 demographic, than believed in capitalism and the idea of free enterprise and free markets. Why is that the case? Why is socialism seemingly growing in appeal with younger voters and younger Americans? Why are so many people turning against not just free enterprise, but the founding traditions of this country? And one obvious reason for that is the Alinskyite Academy. Colleges and universities, the higher education system, most of the more elite institutions, and even some of the middle of the road and public universities are really dedicated to teaching a progressive worldview, which is being imbibed by a lot of our younger Americans. And so we have a lot of socialist teaching on college campuses, even outright Marxists and communists who at times espouse these views. But college campuses and college professors have always been radical, and a lot of people, once they get their degrees, move past this. It hasn't seemed to really affect our politics in any very big and lasting way to the degree that it might be starting to right now. So some of this goes even deeper than that, as noted in an email that was written in 2020 but has only recently gone viral by the billionaire Peter Thiel, who notes that a lot of younger people today don't have any stake in the capitalist system because they don't have any capital. So they study in college, they accumulate a lot of debt to pay off their student loans, and then they are not in a position where they can afford to buy a home when they graduate. So they're perennially renting, they're not buying property, so they don't really feel like they benefit from a lot of aspects of the free enterprise system. And I think we really saw this in New York City when Zohran Mamdani was elected mayor very recently, this November, and he ran on an explicitly socialist, democratic socialist platform. And many of the people who voted for him were younger professionals making six-figure salaries, but in an expensive city like New York, and in a place where they're very unlikely to own their own homes, own any of their own property besides, iPhones and things of that nature. Even in a lot of cases, they wouldn't own cars. They really feel the crushing burden of how expensive everything is in the city, and they don't see how the free market system is really benefiting them. They're working very hard to pay off their loans. They're spending a lot of hours potentially at the office, or they're working from home, and they don't see the American dream playing out for them in quite the same way it did for their parents and grandparents. So that is necessarily going to make some of them receptive to the arguments of people like Mamdani or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders, that there is another, more government-centric way to deliver these goods, to achieve these lifelong goals of prosperity and stability and security. And socialism promises many of these people that they will be much more secure than they will be with the vicissitudes of the free market, with prices going up and down and companies opening and closing and layoffs from corporations and things of that nature. So when you combine the people who don't feel like they're really benefiting from our free market system with the things that they're learning in college, which is not just about socialist economics, which to a lot of people had previously been discredited, but also the so-called woke things that they're learning about our culture, that maybe American history was mostly about us doing bad things and that the country isn't really a good place, and that maybe they have to, and their parents in particular, have too much privilege that they should check. This contributes to a sense of alienation from a lot of what the country had traditionally been about and a lot of things that more conservative politicians might campaign on. Is this the future of America? Is socialism what we have to look forward to? Or is this a trend that can be fought and counteracted? What do you think? Comment down below.